Hi, I'm Lenora.
I'm Kristen. Hello.
I'm Isabel. Hola.
Hi, I'm Isabel. I'm the creator of the Operation Spark. I work with women who are child-free like myself, who might be having some feelings of guilt or anger or shame around their choice. I become their friend and I kind of walk them through the whole process like I did for myself, I guess, a few years ago. I'm also the host of the On a Supper podcast, and I organize child-free women-only trips. We're going to Portugal next week, actually. So, if you don't follow me, the Uprising Sparks, you can see the pictures of us having fun in Portugal and maybe sign up for our next trip.
Hi, my name is Lenora Faye. I'm a child-free lifestyle advocate. I am a moderator and co-founder of the upcoming 2022 Virtual Child-Free Convention, which is streaming live and for free on Child-Free Convention YouTube and Facebook, Saturday, July 30th and Sunday, July 31st.
Hi, I am Kristen Tetzi. I am a writer, most recently the author of most recently some posts on Medium. You can find me at medium.com/Kristen Tetzi. But my latest novel is The Age of the Child, which I wrote because there isn't really a lot of fiction that not only has child-free characters, but really gets into the guts of the deep feeling of wanting to be child-free and the tragedy of maybe having that decision taken away from you. In this story, a very child-free woman is living in a newly post-Roe versus Wade America. So being child-free for her is something of a challenge that she struggles to deal with. Today we are talking about, you can get it wherever books are sold. It's also on Audible and Kindle. What?
And who are we?
We are the three founding non-mothers of Childfree Girls. I forgot to say that.
Yes, we are.
We are together founders, co-founders. And we are talking today about one of the things people say about child-free people, typically women. We've already discussed in our previous episodes not wanting to grow up and not liking to share. And today we are talking about not liking responsibility. I'm going to start with Lenora because I actually think Lenora loves responsibility. I think she overloads herself with responsibility. But let's let Lenora speak for herself about that. Laura, how do you feel about responsibility? And did you not have kids to avoid doing that?
Well, as a taxpayer,
that had to happen.
You set me up. What else could I say?
Yeah,
what else could I say? Let the drinking games commence. Well, I mean, look, there are many ways of showing that you're a responsible person. I know the default is like kids, and then after that, it's maybe pets, neither of which I'm interested in having. I enjoy adulthood, so I guess that means I enjoy responsibility. I like, paying my bills and maintaining a household by myself and many other things. But I don't look at that as, it is responsibility, but it doesn't have that. There's a different energy behind it. When I think of raising children and the responsibility of that, it's just like, I don't want parenthood. So that's one of the many ways of showing you're responsible that you can opt in or out of. I think, again, it's the energy. Like everything I do, I look like I have a lot of responsibility in business and running things and creating things and being part of collaborations, which is true. But for me, it's fun. So it's not a burden to have that kind of responsibility. You know what I mean? And I think, like, when I think of the reason I didn't want to have kids, I didn't want to be a parent. The responsibility aspect of it, that's not a defining factor. It's just I didn't want to be a mom. God. It's really hard to formulate my thoughts. It's the energy behind whatever it is I'm doing, that makes a difference. If I don't want to do something like parenthood, you could present it in the most fun, uplifting way and say, well, that will be your experience as a parent. I don't want that. So I'm not going down that road. I happily take on responsibilities of other types that bring me joy.
And Isabel, what is your feeling about responsibility? And I should have asked Lenora this too, like, why do you think people equate parenthood with responsibility? Oh, you don't want to have kids because you don't want to be responsible. or you don't like responsibility. What is responsibility then, if not all the stuff Lenora just said? And how do you feel about it? And do you think you're responsible? Are you a responsible person as well?
I think I am a responsible person. Yeah, for sure.
I'd like to know why. Like, give me an example of you being responsible even
Oh,
once.
I pay
She
taxes.
doesn't sound convinced. She does not sound convinced.
I do my taxes. I have dogs that I have to tend to. I'm responsible for them. I have a job. Like, I think people, I don't think people think that having a child is like the only way to be responsible. I just think it's like the ultimate way to be responsible, right? It's like big leagues up there. It's like responsibility. Yeah, you can be responsible for many things, for yourself, for paying your bills, for, just being alive, being able to eat and breathe in this world. But when you have children, it's like level up, I think, because you're responsible for another human being's well-being, them being fed and just being safe, I guess. So I think maybe that's why when people have children, they're like, oh, now I have to be responsible for another human being. And honestly, that's not something I want. I don't want to be responsible for another. Like, I'm okay with being responsible for my dogs, but I don't want to be responsible for another human being. And this is interesting though, because I've been thinking about this for many reasons lately. When people actually take responsibility over another person that is not their child, like another adult, this happens a lot. That is, for me, like comparable to being responsible for a child.
Do you mean
And
like if a relative is sick or something, like if you have to care for your parent?
That could be an example, yeah. And,
Or a sick
there's
partner? I
also,
mean,
for me, it's more about like emotional responsibility, like you being responsible for the other person's well-being in a way. It's like maybe you put yourself in that position, maybe they put you in that position. I don't know. There's some sort of, I don't want to say pressure, but it's just like, it's sort of like the role that people take on as parents, but with another adult. And I see that happen a lot in my culture. I don't know if this is something that is common in the States or in Canada, but it's very common in my culture, not only between like people from the same family, but also like partners or even friends, with very close and very toxic friendships. But it's comparable in the way that you take on that sort of, it's not a burden. I wouldn't call it a burden. I'll just say take on that responsibility that is not yours. If you're a parent, the responsibility of the child is definitely yours because you're the parent. But being responsible for another human being in any way, shape, or form is definitely not something that I enjoy. So having kids, definitely no. I mean,
may I have, just because I'm so curious, can I have an example of what you're talking about? Like, let's say it's a friendship where one of the friends has taken on the role or been given the role, but either way, of being responsible in this way for the other friend. Like, what might that mean?
I can like talk openly about this. This happened to me some time ago. And the reason I brought it up because I was like, oh fuck, I don't ever want this to happen to me ever again. And this is part of the reason why this happened to me is because I didn't know how to say no at the time. I was a people pleaser. It was very easy to sort of like get on that side of me when I'm like, where I was like, oh yeah, I'll do anything for you, don't worry. And I would do it for like anyone that I would care about. So I used to have a friend, we're not friends anymore, who had a lot of issues at home. So she was living with her parents this was maybe, I don't remember exactly how long ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. She got kicked out of her house by her parents, but she was living with her parents. She's an adult, okay? She's my age. She was living with her parents, she got kicked out. She didn't have the means to actually go out into the world and be responsible for herself. So she comes to me and she was like crying that day. She was in an awful state. She was like, I got kicked out for whatever reason. I don't remember exactly what it was. And I had my own place at the time. I was paying for my apartment. I had a space. And I was like, you know what? You can come and stay here with me until you figure it out, until you sort it out, right? It's fine. And so she did come along, but then she never wanted to leave. And I was the one who was like taking care of everything. I was paying for the food and just everything, like paying for utilities and making sure that she was okay and she wasn't being responsible for herself. She wasn't being an adult in that way. And I was sort of like feeling in the role of the parents, essentially. So that's just one example of what I meant by taking on the responsibility of another adult that is not your child. and
not even a partner, not even
not a partner,
significant other. Yeah.
Not even like a family member. Mm-hmm. No, just a friend. In my case, I have many more examples like that happened to me before. Like I said, I used to be a people pleaser and I was a pushover, and I'm not that person anymore. And I don't ever want to leave through that anymore. But it just sort of like the whole responsibility thing just brought me back to those situations, you know? And I think that having lived that, and that was before I decided that I wanted to embrace the Childfree lifestyle. And I think that having gone through those moments, I was just like, I don't want this. Like I was doing it voluntarily in a way, like quote unquote voluntarily for somebody else who wasn't like even related to me, or somebody who I didn't actually have to be responsible for. Imagine a child, you can't shirk that responsibility ever, like ever. And that's scary.
So like being emotionally responsible for some, can you be emotionally responsible for some, because even with a child, they have to be like, there's physically being responsible for someone, you know, like you have to feed them, clothe them, shelter them, you know, let's say under the age of 18, or if you have a dependent adult that's in your care, you're a guardian of, and then not getting into the whole power of attorney thing, because that's a whole other story, but can you be emotionally responsible for somebody, or are you absorbing their emotion? Because
you can put yourself in that situation. Yeah, but you can put yourself in that situation for sure.
See, because when I think of, you know, like I really enjoy living alone, and regardless of the age of the person, I don't want someone in my house all the time where I have to I guess be emotionally responsible for them, you know, meaning to make sure they're feeling okay, feeling good. Like that's, I can see where the child, you guide said child to learn how to become emotionally responsible, or just learning how to develop your feelings. But for an adult, that's a lot. I mean, it's even in a significant other role, ultimately we are responsible for our own happiness, something that adults sometimes know and sometimes they don't know. They assume everyone else has to be responsible for making them happy, right? And I don't like that. Like there's enough going on and I need that space. And if someone is emotionally dependent, I think that's it. Emotional dependence. I don't like emotional dependence. It's one thing like in a friendship, in a collaboration or whatever, you know, you everyone needs someone to lean on at some point, you know, even the most introverted, leave me alone person, you know, needs someone to like lean on. Okay, except for Kristen.
Kristen,
she's the exception.
Kristen's just like shaking her head going, nope, not me. I'm completely independently emotional.
I was like,
I don't even have emotions.
I don't have, exactly. I'm a robot. You hadn't noticed this before.
I don't need anybody ever for anything.
So unless you're, aside from Kristen and occasionally me, people need but there's being an emotional crutch for somebody. And, you know, that response, like when you're talking about the responsibility, even to that friend who wouldn't leave your place, like I think of, I don't enjoy that. That's not natural for me. I can be a support system, but I don't want to be responsible for someone's emotional well-being. I want to be supportive of someone's emotional well-being, but not responsible for, you know?
I think a lot of people accidentally get into those romantic relationships, and you don't necessarily have to be living together either, where one person will make the other person their everything. Mm-hmm. Like instead of having their own interests or their own goals or their own passions, that person is their best friend. That person is the one they rely on for entertainment, for like everything. It's just that's what they have, is that other person. And so with all of that wrapped up in that person, if that person has other outside interests or develops things they want to do besides the relationship, then the person who's relying on them for all this stuff is obviously going to feel rejected, or like they're not as important as this person's interest, and therefore something's wrong. So there's all kinds of ways to accidentally be emotionally responsible for someone else, and that's a lot of pressure.
What you just described That is parenthood to me.
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly how I like. You have to like. There's that responsibility that you have with your child at all times. You can't shirk it at all, and especially when they're very young, it's your job as a parent to be able to talk to this person about their feelings and also make sure that they sort of like learn, I guess, the tools in life to actually sort of learn how to process their things and whatnot. But in the end, I'm a very sensitive person. Yeah, sensitive. I always confuse sensitive and sensible Spanish. Sorry. I'm a very sensitive person. I'm an empath in many ways. And I sort of like take other people's feelings very personally on, like I want people to feel good. And if I had to do that 24/7 for a child and then worry if that child is not okay, they're not feeling well for whatever reason, I think that would be a lot of, I mean, the emotional load on myself would be way too high for me to handle. I don't need that responsibility on me, honestly. I'm curious to know, Kristen, yeah, what do you think? Are you responsible, Kristen?
Yes.
So sometimes you guys answer, we don't sound convinced.
Why did she was like, are you not? You don't sound too.
No, I am. I'm just sometimes flaky about it, which doesn't, like if like I would need to Ian does the finances because money makes me sleepy. Like seriously, like all of that. I think we've talked about that. Numbers, spreadsheets, all of that. Seriously, like it shuts off a certain part of my brain. If I have to do it, I will, and I can very well. It's just I prefer not to. But when I did before we got together, I had to make sure I put myself on some sort of pay bill as soon as it comes in system, because otherwise I am very likely to put it in a stack. I'll be one of those people who puts bills in a stack and just kind of forgets accidentally. But other than that, yeah, I like to think I'm responsible in the sense that if I live in a place that has grass and flowers and weeds, I take care of that and don't let it go crazy. I pay things when they're due. I usually take my car for the oil change when it needs it. I'm not hyper responsible. Like I'm not,
Oh, you guys are making my brain hurt.
Well, I want to take care of this car. My Toyota, my first real car, I abused the crap out of. Like I hardly ever changed the oil. I drove it until it caught air sometimes. I mistreated the hell out of that car. But this car I need to last. I want this car to last. So I'm trying to make sure I take good care of it. If someone needs something, like if I say I'm going to be somewhere at a certain time, I am there. I hate unreliability. It drives me crazy. I think it's responsible to be honest. So I do my very, very best to be honest, unless it's not necessary and it will only hurt somebody. White lies. I'm a total fan of white lies.
How many have you told
us? I haven't told you any.
So I can't tell.
I can also consider
that's a white lie.
That's a white lie.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know have I told a white lie? I really do try. Like I'm not going to say I never lie because everybody lies about something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if I do, it's very minor.
I don't think there's been anything necessary that we've had to lie to each other about.
No, not yet.
Okay. We'll save this for a different conversation that's not being recorded.
Not yet, she says.
When my dad needed someone to care for him, I was the one who did that. And I think I did that you never know how you're going to do in a situation like that until you actually have to do it. And it was something that would have scared me had I known it was coming and had someone told me, hey, you're going to do this. I would have been like, what? I can't do that. I've never taken care of somebody else. I can't do that. But I did, and I did it well, mostly, I think. So yeah, I mean, I'm responsible. I have a dog. I'm very good with my dog. I trained the crap out of her. I keep up with all the vet visits. Yes, I am responsible. I'm a responsible person.
Okay, so my question to both of you, in your responsibleness, do you enjoy it?
No, not a single.
And not because you don't care, especially on the pets thing, not because you don't care about it, but do you enjoy that level of responsibility?
I mean, who does, honestly? I mean, I do like
I like
walking,
responsibility, but I don't
walking
have
my
pets.
dog. Yeah, I know. But I mean, just, I mean, in general, I don't enjoy responsibility. Like I wish sometimes I wake up wishing that somebody would just like get my life organized for me and just sort of like pay all the bills and do other things and just, you know, take the dogs out and scoop their poop or whatever. I don't know. I don't
Okay.
I don't like adulting. I don't like it. And I was talking to my mom yesterday about something and she was like, "Oh, that is life." And I was like, "Life sucks." I was just going off about how fucking awful this is. And she was like, "Yeah, but you also have good moments." And I was like, I don't want to hear about how a baby will fix shit, you know, because I don't think she was going there. But this is the kind of thing that we get told, right? Oh, have a kid. It'll make life worthwhile. For me, life is just, it's painful. And part of the pain is having to be responsible for shit, in my opinion. I think I'm a part-time antinatalist as well.
You sound like a part-time antinatalist, yes.
Yeah. What do you think, Kristen?
I rather enjoy life. I don't think it sucks. I like adulting because the opposite of adulting is being under someone's care and under someone's rules. And I'm all about doing what I want when I want. And that comes with it. Like that's all I ever wanted to do is just what I want when I want. Ice cream for breakfast, you know, that kind of stuff. You know what I don't like about adulting? What I don't like about being responsible, and this has to do with years continuing to progress. And as these years continue to progress, you realize that there are certain things you shouldn't do anymore because they can be unhealthy in a way that will make you miserable by the time they catch up with you. Such as I love having a glass of alcohol at the end of the day. I don't get drunk. Like I hardly ever get drunk. In fact, I haven't been drunk in a long time. If I have 2 glasses of anything, that's enough for a hangover. That's how much I drink. But I really like a glass of wine or a glass of beer at the end of the day. Like I love it. However, there's all this stuff about how, you know, even moderate amounts of alcohol can cause cancer. And then you're like, cancer, schmancer, whatever, it'll get me. And I'll be like, 80, who cares? Except once you're 80, it doesn't feel like what you think 80 is. You're just sitting there living at 80 and thinking, man, I don't want cancer. This sucks. Now I have to do chemo and, you know, and I don't want to do that when I'm 80, even if it is, you know, 30 something years away. So I'm not liking having to not have a glass of alcohol every day. I don't like that at all. That's what I don't like about adulting. I don't like self-maintenance. I hate making doctor's appointments. I hate having to freaking floss. I don't like all the stuff I don't like having to put on lotion. Like it takes forever. It's a whole body and you have to put lotion on it so you don't get all, you know, and the whole process at night of flossing, using mouthwash, brushing your teeth. I even use the tongue scraper. So that's like a whole thing. Ian, by the time I go to bed, Ian's all curled up in the blankets and I'm like, you know, I've been in my bathroom for half a fucking hour. I don't like having to get my hair cut. I don't like making any appointments at all, doctor's appointments. It's just like the whole making the appointment thing drives me crazy. So yeah, I don't like that part of being responsible. Hate it.
There's a lot of truth in what you say. I like a lot of that stuff, but yeah, I will say like the whole dental, like some things are just mundane. Like flossing is so mundane. My teeth are so crowded. It's hard to like, I'm chatty, but I've got
that
a
would be
very small
frustrating.
mouth and it's really, and like my wisdom teeth will never come out because my mouth is really crowded. And so like flossing can be a pain and you're right. Like for me, I would love to eat. I've always eaten a lot of sugar. I've cut back, but not enough. And I need to cut back more, but I want to eat all the sugar all the time. But I like, you know, I want to live till I'm 90 and be happy and enjoying life at 90 and still eat some amount of sugar. So yeah, like there's certain things that, you know, and see, I'm at the age now where I know that I need, and I talk myself into trying to keep things in moderation because I know better. In my 20s, you know, you're like, well, you're 20, your brain's all over the place. But that is the one thing about adulting is when you get to the certain age where you know, and you tell yourself you know better, and you're the one giving yourself the lectures as to why? And you start listening to yourself. You're like, damn it, the fun is gone. Like there are certain things, and even with spending money, you know, it's like, okay, yeah, you can go nuts now, but do you want to be able to go nuts a year from now or 10 years? Like things like that. Being at that age where the sensibility has kicked in and you're like, damn it, I sound like my parents, you know, to yourself, just to yourself. So it's good, and it's also annoying, but you know, your older self may thank you if, you know, we're fortunate. But yeah,
That's the thing. But like, I don't want to give up sugar. Like, I have a dessert every single day. I just insist on it, because if the grocery store is selling the tiramisu that I love, I'm going to eat it. But then, and I thought I was only going to have dessert if they had tiramisu. But now when I go, if they don't have tiramisu, I get a little piece of chocolate cake. Like, I'm just going to have it.
Yeah.
And I never used to do this. I don't know if this is some kind of weird hormonal thing. I was never really into sweets, but now I demand them every day. And then you think, okay, so with the alcohol and the sweets or the sugar or whatever, well, you're going to die anyway. Life is short. You may as well enjoy it. So there's 50% that and 50%. What if I'm going to hate myself in like 20 years? Is my 20 year in the future self really going to be pissed off at me?
But is your current age pissed off at your younger self from 20 years ago for doing what it did then?
No, I'm doing great. I'm awesome.
Okay. Well, maybe carry that attitude with you. Yeah. And oddly enough, I am too. Like, I think of what I did in my 20s. I'm like, okay, like,
yeah, it's crazy that
this year. So maybe, I mean, I think though, like, as we get older, there will be certain that attitude might not be effective. I mean, we won't know until we get there, but you know, if you're okay now with what you did then, but now you're being more sensible or more responsible here, it doesn't have to mean perfect. But in 20 years, do you think you'll look back and be going, you know, we're fine, we're okay, enjoy that piece of chocolate cake now, because, like, you know,
I just don't want cancer, like all of this, seriously. Well, except for the sugar thing, and sugary alcohol also age you. Oh, and also alcohol disrupts your sleep, and I don't like having my sleep disrupted. I don't know, man. It's such a drag.
All right. So bottom line is, we really don't like responsibility as much as we say we do.
Well, not if it comes at the expense of your pleasure.
But that's the thing. For me, responsibility is the opposite of pleasure.
Right. Okay. Well, okay. Yeah. So this is why then people go, oh, well, you guys are so selfish. You're just living this hedonistic lifestyle because, you know, I don't know what people think hedonism means, but you know, like, sometimes I'm like, what are you guys like implying here? But if we're looking at, I mean, really from the sake of just enjoying things, and this doesn't have to have anything to do with sex, doesn't have to have anything to do with sex. It's like people look at, you're enjoying yourself too much. That is wrong. You need to be responsible, which, I mean, I know parents who enjoy their life and they have got kids, they're raising kids, and there are people with children who live incredible looking lives. You know, it's hard to tell because, you know, appearances are just appearances, but people can be happy and do what they want, kids or no kids. It's just, if we don't want to have kids, people like to throw that, oh, the lack of responsibility on us because it looks like we're just having a good old time. And sometimes we are, sometimes we're not. Today, 2 of the 3 of us are not having great days. Or, okay, 3 of us are not having great days at present. I
have a question.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were wanting to be included in the...
No, I'm raising my hand.
Oh, okay.
What is wrong?
All right.
What is wrong with having a good old time?
Nothing.
Okay, just checking.
It
makes people angry. They don't like it.
Yeah. I know, especially on social media. Like, they just go crazy.
I think people who have limited like time or resources to have a good old time don't like that people have like that do have the resources or the time have a good old time. Mm-hmm. Not all of them, but I would say some of them. And you know, it's interesting because I was just thinking, I've known children who are more responsible than I am now. You know, like children who take on a lot of responsibility because maybe they're the firstborns and they're sort of like helping raise their siblings, which mm-hmm. happens, or kids that are just overly concerned about their grades and school, and they are just like pouring all their time and energy into that. So I think, you know, it depends. It all comes down to just how do you want I mean, how does responsibility present itself in your life? Because you don't need to be an adult to be responsible either,
True.
you know?
True.
I remember being more responsible when I was a child, or even not more responsible, but sort of yearning the responsibility when I was a child. I remember thinking, ooh, I want to grow up because I want to do this and I want to do that, and I want to have a car, I want to pay bills, and I want to have a credit card. And now that I'm old, I'm like, I don't want this. Why did I want this? I have no idea. Oh God.
So okay, so your childhood version of adulthood did not live up to expectations, or
Oh no, I surpassed them. Like
okay.
when I was a child, like I wanted to be this adult. No, I wanted to be like sort of like a more simple version of the adult that I am now. Like I
Okay.
completely surpassed them. But the thing is, when I was a child, I didn't know that responsibility felt this way as an adult. It's not cool. I don't like it.
Well, honestly, Isabel, though, you think about it, and you don't. And so this is going to sound weird, and you don't have children. Imagine what those people who have always envisioned parenthood finally become parents and go, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
Like, I mean, how would I know? Because I'm not there. But there are certain things that we've all wanted that we get, and we look at it and go, "Okay, great. I don't want this," or I do want this, but I don't like this aspect of it. I can't imagine that parenthood is any different than that.
You have a great point.
Do you follow the account Dad and Buried?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love
such a great account.
That guy.
We should
he
have him on the
posted
show.
something. Well, I know, I was thinking about that. He posted something the other day. It was his response to a question someone asked him. And someone asked him, do you ever fear your kids will grow up and see your tweets? Because he makes a lot of fun of parenthood in a hilarious way, but it's obvious he loves his kids. And he said, his response to that was, do I ever worry my kids will read my stuff and realize parenting is hard and children are annoying? I hope so. Because that should be something like to help people think about it. But one of the other things about the assumption that people who don't want kids aren't as responsible or shirking some level of responsibility is like all of these opinions of people who choose not to have kids don't miss out on pummeling the women who can't have kids either, and feeding into this self-shaming or guilting or self-worth loss that some women have just because they can't have kids. So they're thinking, oh, if I can't have kids, people are going to think I'm irresponsible, or I'm going to feel irresponsible, or I'm not living up to my responsibility potential, or like all these things. While we can be like, fuck you, whatever. I think that weight on women who not only feel like they should have kids, but feel worthless or whatever because they can't have them, it just adds more self-worth questioning onto them when people say things like that.
I agree with that.
And also too, like when people are throwing out that, oh, you don't want responsibility. Again, as we know, it's how they feel. I mean, why did they have kids? They wanted to feel responsible for something. They were told that's how you do responsibility. I mean, this is why I feel, well, one of the many reasons why I want the, child-free conversation or even the choice conversation to expand further is, along the same lines as how, childless people will feel, how it can, I'm not say make them feel better, but ease off that pressure. Because again, if you think of the kids that are being born because of responsibility, or the parent needs to feel responsible for something, therefore they're going to have kids, and that's the reason why the kids are there. And it's just this whole cycle of this is the only way of proving responsibility or whatever. It's just unnecessary. But they don't, again, because we know parents who are okay, or they're totally supportive of the child-free choice or the choice conversation in general. So to me, that seems that they're at peace with whatever they've decided to do, which is having kids. A lot of times they're honest that, parenthood isn't always like the greatest thing. And some people take it further and say it's not great at all. But those that really get all up in arms and throw out that responsibility thing, it makes me wonder again, what are you resenting? Seriously, you know, like I wonder if they feel trapped in their responsibility. I often have that question about to pet owners, but you can also say that to business owners and people that have cars. Like some people don't want the responsibility of a car because it's an expense.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you got to maintain it. We have to maintain it. We've talked, you know, Kristen, you brought up maintenance. Like anything that you own or anything in your possession, you can maintain or not. But if you want it to last longer, it requires maintenance. You know, people want to start a business, but they have no clue all that's involved. And there's a lot of unsexy things that are involved, you know, paperwork and office politics and everything that goes along with it. Right. So, you know, if you want anything, there is some level of responsibility. If you're breathing, let me put it this way. If you are breathing, there's some level of responsibility. We just have to deal with it because I mean, even as a kid, like you're responsible for, you know, making sure you don't run out into traffic, you know, even if your parents are there. Like there's just, I honestly, though, I feel more carefree at this age for the most part than I did as a child because I can make my own decisions. That's probably why. Oh, there's a dog.
That's a person in Isabel's lap. This is the show you want to watch.
Stay tuned for next episode of Childfree Girls.
No, it's just Kiwi. Say hi, Kiwi.
Hi, Kiwi.
She was sleeping, so I'm just going to let her go back to sleep. Well, that is all for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to send us an email, you can always write to childfreegirls@gmail.com. You can send us comments, questions, anything that you want to share with us. Please don't send attachments. We don't open attachments. We also have this section in our blog called Dear Childfree Girls. So if you want to send us an email with maybe a question, you want input for anything that's going on in your life, childfree related, you can send it to us. Just put in the subject, Dear Childfree Girls, so we know that you want us, the three of us, to answer that question. We also post it in our posts, in our blog, sorry. We post it in the blog. We put it on social media. If you want to remain anonymous, just make sure that you put, please post anonymous. We'll do that for you. And our website is childfreegirls.com.
Of course, you can find us all over social media. We are at Childfree Girls on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We have our book, Childfree Girls, Comfort Food for Thought, which somehow is off kilter on my shelf. That's on Amazon, available in paperback and on Kindle. And yeah, that's it for social media, I guess.
And the question for this episode, in addition to how cute is Isabel's dog, if you're not watching, you should, because Kiwi is adorable. Although I am starting to wonder why I have not seen Euro around anywhere. Because
he's asleep.
Okay. My question was, where is Euro? But the question for you is, how do you feel about responsibility? Frankly, do you like responsibility like Lenora? Are there certain parts you like and dislike? And I don't know. Yeah, I guess, what's your view of responsibility? What's it have to do with kids? You can tell us down in the comments below. Send us an email at the previously mentioned email address, which is childfreegirls@gmail.com. Thank you for watching and listening.
You're welcome.
You can rate us if you want. Yeah, you can leave reviews places.
Yes, please.
Bye. Yeah.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Bye.
Don't forget to tune in a couple of weeks for our newest episode.
Bye.
Bye.